Why subjective morality is total nonsense. Let's get ready for this. It's a fucking banger, dude. I fucking love it, dude. That shit's fire, bro.
This is Darwin to Jesus. Hope you're all doing well. So I used to be a pretty mean atheist. I had
Oh, you fucking jerk.
almost no empathy for others. I
Wow.
enjoyed
Wow, what a jerk off. No empathy for others. Almost none, dude.
pushing people's buttons and upsetting them. But even then, and for as long as I can remember, I've always had a complete and total aversion and dislike for the idea of subjective morality. Whenever I hear someone saying they believe morality is subjective, I simply don't believe them. I want to hopefully give an analogy here for why I don't believe them and why subjective morality is completely and totally absurd. Imagine
I'm fucking ready for it. So to put you on, just to tell you where I'm at on this, I do believe that morality is subjective. I think that if there were natural moral law, it would be stuff that was literally impossible for us to do. So just in the same way that, like, if there was a natural moral law against like rape or murder or something like that, I think that those acts would be impossible to accomplish. Just like we're not able to travel faster than the speed of light because that violates the laws of physics, right? We're not able to suddenly fly. I can't just go, I'm Superman, woo, and fly away because that's against the laws of aerodynamics. So I think if there was actually legitimate, objective moral law, it would be stuff that we were completely precluded from doing by some sort of mechanism of nature. But there doesn't seem to be that. It seems that human beings are perfectly capable of doing things that are, cruel and horrible to one another. Hey, if you like this clip, you might like the full stream, which I do every Sunday, more or less, over on the Pessimist Productions Patreon, link down below. Thank you kindly.
Imagine two friends decide to go golfing together. The first friend hits his ball down the fairway. Now it's the second friend's turn. The second friend takes a ball out of his pocket and he throws it down the fairway. Immediately, the first friend objects. "You can't do that," he says. The second friend says, "Yes, I can. I just did. Do you have something that shows I'm in the wrong?" The first friend admits,
Well, the rules of golf. I mean, last I checked, there's rules to golf. There's rules to pretty much any sporting activity. And if you violate those rules, then there's usually some sort of penalty or you can't continue the game. I'd imagine if there was two guys golfing and it's like, let's play a rousing game of golf, and one guy was throwing the ball. I mean, first of all, it's a terrible attempt at cheating because I'm pretty sure you can whack the ball with the stick a fuck of a lot further than you can throw the damn thing. So he's the most ineffective cheater of all time. But aside from that, I'm pretty sure people would just not play with that guy. They'd just be like, no, you don't play by the rules of the game. So no, we're just not going to play with you. And that would be that, right? Yeah.
he doesn't have anything that would settle the matter. Actually, he doesn't believe in any set of standard golf rules.
Yeah, there's no objective rules of golf either. The rules of golf are also subjective. This is a weird analogy because the rules of golf are subjective. And if two people agreed to play golf by different rules, they could do that. If some guy was like, hey, we're both really bad at putting, so let's just say that it's over once we get on the green. That'll be our little rule between us. And that person's like, yeah, you know what? I'm fine with that. I don't really like putting either, so let's just try to hit it on the green, and then we'll just consider that, the score. And if both those guys agree to that, they could play a game of golf with that being the rules. Because guess what? The rules of golf are subjective. Because it's a game that we made up, right? So there's no... If this is your analogy for why objective morality exists, then do you also believe there's objective rules of golf somehow codified into the fucking very fabric of nature? Because there's not.
Those don't exist, he says, and he doesn't believe it's possible for them to exist. Golf rules are...
Well, no. See, okay, I see the problem here. You don't understand what's actually being talked about here, do you? because to say that the rules are subjective is not to say that the rules don't exist. It's to say that they're subjective. Something being subjective doesn't mean that it can just be ignored. I mean, it can be if there's like mutual whatever, or if you can just get away with something, I guess. But like, if two people like a film, that doesn't mean the film is objectively good. It can be a subjective truth that they still both agree on. You know, if you're a bunch of people in the Back to the Future fan club, chances are they all agree on the subjective statement that Back to the Future is a good film. If you're a member of the Back to the Future haters club, then you probably agree with the also subjective statement that Back to the Future is not a good film and is overrated. But there is no objective truth of the matter. There is no, it's not, Back to the Future is not objectively a good or a bad film. It's all subjective.
His first friend is actually just upset because the second friend isn't playing golf like he, the first friend, personally prefers.
Sure.
The second friend that threw the golf ball, upon realizing this, laughs and points out that he has just as much right to be mad as the first friend for not playing how he prefers. And he's absolutely right. This is...
Well, no, because there is an entrenched and recognized set of rules for golf. It's not entrenched by nature, but it's understood by most people who golf that that's the rules of golf. You hit it with the fucking stick. You hit it with the club. You don't throw it, which wouldn't even be effective anyway. You would have a much lower score. Once again, you can hit the ball much further than you can throw the goddamn thing, so it's a really weird thing to even argue.
Subjective morality. If morality is subjective, then there are no moral rules or obligations that are above us. When we say that...
Well, no, there are, because the very thing you're showing right here, this like Lady Justice, that's a symbol of what we call the court system. There are laws that have been passed by human beings, and they're enforced by human beings. There are people whose job it is to arrest criminals. There are people whose job it is to imprison criminals. There are people whose job it is to prosecute criminals in a court system to decide whether or not said criminals are indeed criminals. Like, we've developed this rather intricate series of things that happen that are controlled by us every step of the way. None of that is objective. You know what is objectively true is that if you violate the law and you're caught, you're probably going to suffer legal repercussions. That's an objective reality. Like, hey, you murdered 15 people. Does the universe have a problem with that? There's no indication that it does. There is no indication from the cosmos at large that it cares that you murdered 15 people. But you know who probably does care? The victims of the crime probably cared before they were killed. The families of the victims probably care because they happened to like those people that you killed, and now they've been deprived of them. The police probably care. The courts probably care. The prisons probably care. All of those things do show concern. And it's from those things that you will receive some sort of punitive action. Not the cosmos, not God, not the universe. It's going to be from the justice system. Right? Right.
That is wrong. We should be saying, I don't prefer to do that behavior personally, because that's what wrong actually boils down to. It's personal preferences. In subjective morality, there is no actual right or wrong. Mm-hmm. You have your preferences, and I have mine.
Yeah, but some preferences are backed up by society. And there's plenty of issues where there's total disagreement about this stuff. Like the issue of, say, abortion. Some people think abortion is morally correct. Some people think abortion is morally incorrect. And both sides fight through the court system to get their subjective view of the issue to be the law of the land. People who believe that abortion is wrong want abortion to be illegal. People who believe that abortion is right want abortion to be legal. That's what all the fighting is about. There is no objective truth of the matter. Now, there are some things that are so obviously disadvantageous to society in general that we don't embrace them no matter what, like murder. No one is going to defend the concept of murder. I mean, maybe there might be some fringe person that might, but like most people recognize that we can't have a functional society where murder isn't taboo, where murder is just allowed, where it's just like, yeah, I mean, if you want to kill people, you go right ahead. Like, that's not going to be a very successful society. That's not going to produce very good results. That's not going to get very far. So the societies that do advance are the ones who prescribe murder. Not prescribe, proscribe murder.
Your preferences are just as valid as everyone else's. So rape and murder and theft aren't wrong. They are just things some people happen to not like. Just as I...
Yeah, well, but they're they're not just some things that people happen to not like. They're things that are illegal. They're things that are punishable by a court system that we have devised and designed to discourage those behaviors from taking place. How are we not seeing that? How is that not understood?
I happen to not like sugar in my coffee. There isn't anything wrong with my wife putting sugar in her coffee. It's simply not something I prefer. If morality is subjective...
Yeah, but the thing is that sugar in your wife's coffee is inconsequential to pretty much anyone but her. Murder is pretty consequential because someone's dying. You murder someone, they're dead. They can't do anything anymore. Their entire life is now gone. And all of their friends and family are like, hey, that really rankles our fucking ass hairs. We liked that person. We didn't want them to not exist anymore. This motherfucker removed them from existence. And, you know, now there are all sorts of emotional and practical ramifications of that person's actions. And therefore, we want this discouraged. And that's why systems have been developed to discourage those behaviors. Because it doesn't just affect you. It's not just like, well, you know, some people prefer sugar in their coffee and some people prefer taking other human beings' lives. You know what I mean? Like, it's not the same thing. It's not comparable.
That's all it is. A personal, arbitrary, meaningless preference with no substance or real meaning.
Well, no, it has real meaning because it, like I just explained, it has way more far-ranging effects.
Opinion is no less valid than the non-rapist's opinion. There is no...
Well, I mean, on most things, that's probably true. Like, you know, if you're a rapist that likes sugar in your coffee versus a non-rapist that doesn't like sugar in your coffee, those opinions are still just on the same level. There's no, oh, well, it's their opinion on rape that's actually significant. But it's not significant because of some like great cosmic googly moogly looking over everything and being like, don't rape. If anything, the Bible, by the way, is not all that harsh on rape. The problem with rape is that, you know, it affects other people's lives in horribly drastic ways. That's the issue. That's why society is like, no. Now, if we lived in a society where everyone was okay with rape, then it wouldn't be against the law. It just wouldn't. Like if there was widespread moral sentiment of like, it's okay, there wouldn't be a law against rape. There just wouldn't. But because that's a widely held belief, rape is bad, that's why there's laws against it. It's just broad intersubjective consensus that leads that to be a law. And the proof of that is the stuff I already mentioned before, like the abortion issue, where people are actually divided on the morality of an action. You see all this combat. And where does that combat take place? In the court system. Because that is the closest thing we have to an objective morality. But those are not natural consequences arising from nature. Those are imposed consequences arising from man.
moral truth. There is no right or wrong. Many subjectivists will be upset about how I've represented subjectivism, but what I have said is...
I mean, I'm not really upset by it. It's just stupid. Like, I don't really feel like a tremendous need to be like, ah! Because it's just wrong. I mean, like, it's just self-evidently wrong. And simple-minded and not at all cogent. So I don't know.
Accurate. In subjectivism, there are no moral truths. There are just opinions and preferences. That's what it means. This is not morality.
Well, yeah, but you forgot about the existence of, like, law and the court system and imposed fucking consequences.
This is nonsense. When I see a video of a pit bull attacking an old man, I know that the cameraman who is sitting there filming should be helping. He's in the wrong. When I say...
Maybe he's not capable of helping. Maybe that fucking camera person is too weak to help. Or maybe they would just get mauled by the dog themselves if they tried to intervene. Like, you don't know.
He is wrong. I don't mean that he did something that I personally happen to not prefer. I mean he has violated a standard that is outside of us both and that we're both subject to.
But what are you talking about? Other than the law or the court of public opinion, like what standard outside of yourselves is he subjected to? Like the universe doesn't care. The universe is not like that guy's not helping when he should be. Strike him with a bolt of lightning. The universe is like that guy's not helping that other guy. Let's, destabilize his molecules so he just melts away like a Thanos snap. Like none of that's happening. He might see repercussions because people on social media be like, that motherfucker should have helped. And he's a piece of shit. And that widespread opinion might cause him some repercussions, but that's human beings. The courts might have something to say. You should have helped that guy. You had a moral duty or a legal duty to help him. But that would be the determination of the courts. So once again, human repercussions. This is nothing more than intersubjective consensus about moral guidelines. This is not objective morality. Objective morality would be if nature or God or some force outside of ourselves intervened, interceded on the behalf of the morally aggrieved.
Subjectivists will say the cameraman was wrong, but really if they were to be consistent, they should say, I personally don't prefer to film men getting attacked by dogs. That's all they'd actually be saying under subjectivism. To act as if moral subjectivism means anything when all you're telling me is your preferences is so absurd it's insulting. Right is wrong. It's not something I happen to not prefer doing. It's wrong. Period. This is why I have never been...
Yeah, but your belief that it's wrong is subjective. I mean, this is basically the only argument that these people ever put forth. It's just an argument from incredulity. They're just like, is obviously wrong. You saying that's just a personal preference? It's like, well, I don't see the universe interceding, do you? I don't see God coming down from heaven and stopping it. I don't see the laws of nature preventing it. I don't see some sort of great cosmic force destroying the earth, do you? I see human beings imposing these consequences. So that tells me pretty decisively that this is nothing more than intersubjective consensus. I mean, certainly the rapist didn't think there was anything wrong with it, right? I mean, so if the barometer is, I know it's wrong, well, what about all the people who don't know it's wrong? What about the people out there who just think, yeah, rape, cool, I like raping? Like, if that's their fucking stance, that's their preference versus your preference. But at the end of the day, if society sided with them, if society as a whole said rape is fine, it would be fine. It could happen, and it wouldn't be punished, and it wouldn't be penalized. People just be like, well, that's how it goes. Sorry you got raped. That sucks for you, but we've all decided there's nothing wrong with that. That would be the fucking end of it. So, yeah, it's completely subjective. Now, the thing about a society like that is it wouldn't go very far. A society that just says, yeah, to your heart's content, that would be fucking horrible. Be a horrible, miserable place to exist in. A society that says kill to your heart's content or steal to your heart's content. A society that just allows people to be victimized in cruel and demeaning and ways that create more suffering, that's not going to be a successful society. That's not going to be a society that thrives. That's not going to be a society that advances very far. That's going to be a place of self-destruction and misery. So in that sense, I guess, there is some sort of force of nature acting upon things. But really, that's just a sort of, like, in the same way it's unwise to, bash yourself in the face with a hammer or something, like, or to go on a long boating expedition to the sea and not wear a life jacket, or in a unseaworthy craft. Like, there are things that are inadvisable, but that doesn't mean it's objectively wrong to do them. It just means that you have a far greater chance of harming yourself if you engage in these actions. And if you engage in an action that harms yourself, then you're obviously going to be less likely to survive. You're obviously going to be less likely to thrive. And so there is sort of a process whereby certain behaviors are selected for and certain behaviors are selected against. But I don't think it's anything tantamount to this quote unquote objective morality where somehow the universe itself has something to say about moral goods and moral not goods. I think if you're going to say there's an objective anything, I think there's an objective survivability, an objective standard for thriving for both an individual and a society. And even that kind of breaks down at a certain point. But I think up to a point, there is objective truth to be seen there. But there's certainly no sort of objective morality, no sort of force that has judgments about human actions, other than human beings, of course.
A subjective moralist, and I don't believe people when they say they are, because they either don't understand what it actually means, or
you don't understand what it actually means. That's the embarrassing thing here. You don't get it. This concept completely eludes you, and you've basically spent this entire video arguing against this ludicrous, like, straw man argument.
They do understand, and they insist it still is morality, even though it carries absolutely no weight or...
We give it weight. We give it weight by passing laws and enforcing them. What don't you get about this, you dumb f***? If I was king and I made a law against making really stupid arguments and I watched this video and I threw you in jail, would that be now an objective moral? I don't think so.
Authority, and is just
maybe it would be
a fancy way of telling others about your preferences. And why should anyone care about your preferences? I don't.
Okay, well then you're a sociopathic piece of shit. I don't know what to tell you. I prefer not to be killed. Just letting you know. I guess you don't care though. Maybe this guy believes in objective morality because he needs to, because otherwise he just has no empathy for human beings. He did say at the beginning he had a problem with empathy. So maybe he has to believe in an objective moral arbiter. I don't know why, like, just the standard of, like, the law will punish you if you kill me. I don't know why that's not enough, but I think it should be. Then again, I guess it doesn't stop every murder, does it?